Finish him. I just got back from seeing Mortal Kombat 2. And this movie was, I would say, average. It's not bad. It's not good. Kind of like somewhere in the middle. I would give it probably a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10. I think that's kind of fair. So let's get into it. It kind of picks up right where the first one left off. And to the film's credit, when the first one came out and I watched it, right, I think the biggest issue was the main character was a character that didn't exist like in the video games. So everybody was kind of like, should we care about this person where we already now have like decades worth of history of these characters, these other characters that already existed? Why do we care about this guy right here? And so they definitely made an effort in making sure, hey, he's not going to be the main focus going forward. And so we have Carl Urban, who's playing Johnny Cage, who he's the primary focus of the movie. And part of my issue with this is that as the movie goes on, it definitely becomes more of a Katana movie with that. And not to say that that's ultimately wrong, because Katana is a character that has real depth to her lore, her background, who she is, what she does. And so my issue isn't that she's kind of also the main character. My main critique is that there is a character that has been present in both these movies who should be the main focus of the movie, but for some reason they are choosing just not to, and that's Liu Kang. Liu Kang, if you've never played any of the Mortal Kombat movies, I don't think it's really up for debate. We're 12 games in, so we have decades worth of these games, and they have focus, and they have dived into so many of the characters, their background. We know these characters, even if you're not someone who's really invested in a Mortal Kombat, like myself, I don't know everything about the lore, right? But I know the names: Johnny Cage, Liu Kang, Sonya Blade. That's how much they have entered into regular pop culture, where even if you've never played the games or you're here and there, these names are familiar. You've probably heard them. But from what I do know, right, Liu Kang is your main character. He is the hero of Mortal Kombat. I know there probably might be people out there who are probably going to fact check me on that, but I don't think it's up for debate. I played the first couple of Mortal Kombat games. He was the main character. And they have made him this side character now in 2 movies, but a side character who everyone acknowledges, even this movie acknowledges on multiple occasions, this dude's the real main dude. He is the best of the best. He is the most powerful outside of Raiden, right? But he is the most powerful. He is the best shot we have at winning the tournament. They have done this now in 2 movies where they have made him out to be, this central figure just to not focus on him. And it's just dumb. And this actually comes to a head towards the end of the movie. So a little spoiler here, right? This will have some spoilers. There's literally a scene in this movie where Liu Kang is fighting Shao Kahn, right? It's towards the end of the movie. And here we go. Spoiler, right? Liu Kang kind of dies, but not really, right? And I don't know, again, I don't know this much of the lore. I played the first couple of games. I know a little bit of the story, but I'm not big in the lore here. But from what I do gather is that Liu Kang, I believe, has died, but in some way he doesn't like fully, it's not like a full death. There's some other thing that is happening with him. But again, from what I know, that's part of what makes him the main character, where he will die, but there's something that's working behind the scenes, right? Because Liu Kang is the main character. So there's a reason why he's supposed to die. And so this movie does the same thing, where there's a reason ultimately why he's dying, but in the scene he says, "Oh, everything makes sense now. I am not the chosen one." And it's like, but you are the chosen one. Like, that's literally the point of him. Again, you get that from the first couple of games. Now, yeah, we can focus on other characters. We can do all this and that. But this is just your second movie, right, of the rebrand, the reboot of the Mortal Kombat like franchise as far as in cinema form. And you're like rewriting things that actually go against what the lore actually shows us. And so he verbally says out loud, "I am not the chosen one." And it's like, okay. And then when you combine that, this is another spoiler. You combine that, then that ultimately it is Katana who beats Shao Kahn in the final match. And it's kind of like, what? And for everybody who's been like critical of, you know, the female empowerment in movies, like, this wasn't as bad because they did show Katana as being a flawed character. There's also like actual legitimate backstory as to how she actually can fight. So this isn't as bad as, let's say, like Rey from Star Wars, who never trained, right, as a Jedi, never ever picked up a lightsaber. And the first time she does, she goes toe to toe, right, with Kylo, and like basically stalemates him. And it's like, that's stupid. Kylo should have, like, no matter the fact that, because people like to say, oh, the reason why she was able to put up a fight is because Kylo was injured, is like, that doesn't matter at all. He has spent his whole life training, right, to be a Jedi, use the Force. Homegirl literally just picked up the sword and stalemated him. That makes no sense at all. So this isn't that bad, but it's still kind of like this agenda thing of like, oh, look how awesome the woman is. Now she's the queen, right? And it's just, again, I'm not against getting to that, but there are already more characters who are, that they really just haven't focused on. Even like Sonya Blade and everything. Like, Sonya Blade's right from the jump. Like Mortal Kombat 1, the very first Mortal Kombat game that ever existed. She's in it. And she's also like a side character. So, you know, that just rubs me in the sense the wrong way, where it's like you have something that you can already flesh out and you're just choosing not to do it. And then you're kind of shoehorning modern day agenda stuff that we've been seeing in other movies, but you don't go full blown in it, right? Because you know, you're aware, people don't really like all that stuff. And that's even more to the point of the movie. Like, the movie does so many things that the first movie did not do. So there clearly was a concerted effort from the director, the producers, everybody, to listen to the fans' complaints in the first movie and then literally like just do then exactly what the fans wanted to do. And from that point of view, I would say this is where the movie does shine, because there's great action, great fights. It is Mortal Kombat. So yeah, the fatalities are there. It's gory. Right, so they're living up to exactly what people would want when you're thinking about a Mortal Kombat movie based on the video game. The little somewhat dialogue, there were moments where I felt it was like, ugh, this is kind of rough, and then other moments where I was like, okay, this is funny. Like I'm getting it. I think the whole scene with Baraka, right? And how that takes place. I thought that was really, really funny. Although, again, and this is where the film like hurts, right? So in moments that's so good and funny, but then in other moments it's like, this is stupid and doesn't make sense. Because part of Baraka, right? Part of going to see Baraka is because his species, like what he is, which I can't remember what the name was, but what he is, they have access to like a tunnel that will get them into like the palace. And Katana says that, you know, we have to go and see them in order to, you know, I guess gain access to that tunnel. But it really doesn't make sense because Baraka, like, he leads them to the tunnel. He's in there. He deals with a couple of guards. They get to the door, and then he's like, yeah, I can't go past anymore. It's y'all now. And it's like, did you really need to go then see him? Like, was his purpose just to show you the door and then leave? The movie doesn't explain that they are guarding or have access to that door. But let's say they even did, and let's say I missed it. So it doesn't make sense that they could just sneak into and go there. But also, why I'm thinking that that's not the case is because when they meet for the first time, Liu Kang just tells him, hey, help us fight, you know, Shao Kahn. Not, hey, you have access to this door. We want to get to the palace and beat up Shao Kahn. Help us do that. So that's kind of weird that, you know, that's what it is. Now, Shao Kahn himself, I think was played really well. Like, definitely villain status. Again, there's some things where I'm just like, doesn't really make sense, but anything to harp on. It is ultimately a movie about a video game that is basically about a fighting tournament. And so what you're expecting is action, gore, and probably some at least cheesy, somewhat funny, jabby, you know, dialogue, which this movie does give it. But also then falls off in other places. And so that's why I ultimately would give it a 6 out of 10. Those are my opinions. Those are my thoughts. But yeah, 6 out of 10. I would say if how I described it being, you know, if you're just there for the action, the gore, the somewhat quirky dialogue, and you're willing to like overlook actual like plot holes and things that just don't make sense, you'll probably have a good time with this movie. If you're going in there and you're just trying to, you know, think like this should be like a great, fantastic movie, like I don't think you'll get that unless you think a great and fantastic movie is what it is. But yeah, those are my thoughts. 6 out of 10 for me. But as always, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Please give a like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And as always, I appreciate y'all. Peace.